Guys, so in this video, I kind of want to talk to you about some interesting things I learned from watching a short clip uh, of Roger Sharp and Michael Gottlieb at the Pinball Expo in 2023. And what I took from this clip was something very interesting. So one of the people at the show asked Roger, why did Williams and all these pinball companies like Gottlieb, why did they all start in Chicago? And I had never really thought about it, right? And it's a question that I don't think I would have ever asked. I would have just thought, oh yeah, Chicago, okay. But there's something important, and Roger Sharp was saying this. The reason why it was Chicago was because at the time, Chicago was like the epicenter of everything industrial. So Chicago, you had a lot of manufacturing plants. You had, you have a river for like transportation. You have, the railway systems. So Chicago was like the perfect place if you wanted to create and manufacture pinball machines, because that's where all the talent was for doing all those. You had like lumber mills, you had woodworkers, you had steel. So you had all these resources and plants where all in the right place, and you had a workforce. So you could, that was what you needed. Those were the ingredients for starting up a pinball company like Williams and Gottlieb. And he even made another good example. He said it was probably the same reason for why car manufacturing started in Detroit, right? Because of the raw material being close to Canada. And he said, that's why, computers and technology, took its start in Silicon Valley, because of how close it was to the East, Japan and China, and how technology could be imported relatively fast from the Pacific coast. So location was huge, and so that's why these companies like Williams, Bally started in Chicago, because it was really where you had a lot of hard workers, you had a lot of, a bustling city, and the raw material, the manufacturing. So you could, because that's really the important part of pinball. It's not just the designing part, but you need distributors, you need suppliers. And he was saying that, some people thought that Chicago was the birthplace of, Williams Pinball because of Al Capone and the mob. But that's not really true, because that's where you had a lot of, these coin operated businesses, casinos, and gambling. But really the reason why Chicago is the birthplace of pinball is because of those reasons. And that's why the expo, which I never know, is held there every year. And also in this interview, with Michael Gottlieb, who is the son of Alvin Gottlieb, who is the son of D. Gottlieb, right? It's interesting because Roger Sharp became close friends with Michael's father, Alvin Gottlieb. For a long time, Gottlieb was kind of like the pinball business that was kind of closed off from other manufacturers like Chicago and Bally. They were kind of like secretive almost. That's what Michael was saying. But Roger was able to make friends with Alvin, and they became close. And so, the industry became kind of closer. But that's something that was kind of interesting, that, Gottlieb was generally like they were more like secretive about their stuff, because you have to remember too, when pinball, you had Bally, Williams, Gottlieb, they were competing with each other, right? So kind of, things had to be kept secret in a way, right? Because you didn't want designers to steal your ideas and whatnot. And so this is where this table is from. The son of D. Gottlieb, and Alvin G was kind of like a small was a smaller boutique manufacturer from Gottlieb, and they didn't produce a lot of tables, but kind of the direction that Alvin G was going was more of a family oriented pinball. So that's why Punchy the Clown became like this ticket dispensing arcade machine, where it was pinball, but it was smaller and it was ticket dispensing. So that was kind of the direction Alvin G and Michael Gottlieb tried to go with Alvin G and their machines. They tried to make them more, family oriented. But yeah, that was a pretty interesting segment I watched. And something else that Roger Sharp was saying that was pretty pivotal. He was saying the same thing I kind of thought about a while ago. He said, pinball is kind of like a hobby, and that's basically passed on, right? And it's up to us to pass it on, right? So he was he was saying how he got his sons into pinball, and his sons got their kids into pinball, and it's pretty much the same way. It's like this family thing, and it's like people, for example, VPX authors who are making VPX tables, VPX people who are working on the back end programming of visual pinball, people who are still making digital pinball tables, Pinball effects. The Pinball Arcade even introduced the Alvin G tables to the public, basically, with Alvin Al's Garage Band, right? So that's what I thought was pretty crucial too. It's like it's the same thing. People like myself who make content on pinball, people who go to the Pinball Expo in Chicago every year, and it's just really preserving pinball. And I mentioned this too because I was talking to Dom about this concept of preservation with film, and how a long time ago, before technology, the media storing film reels was a big thing because it took up so much space. So preservation is important even in pinball today, and you see that with examples of like how people try to preserve, like Big Bang Bar was a table that never went into production, but there was someone who like tried to gather documentation from Capcom and eventually built like 100 machines, so to bring it to life basically. And that's what you're doing with pinball, and it's really cool. It's such a cool kind of community, and I enjoy it because it brings me back to like to what I remember with pinball. So yeah, we're gonna play this table now.
Welcome to the
All right, let's go. This table's from RobbyKingPin, I believe. Just a beautiful table, though. I like the yellow stone. Scoring. It's kind of like an early solid state. You got some drop targets on the right. Oh, that ramp. There we go. Oh, no. It reminds me a little bit of Medieval Madness, like There we go. This is fun. Drop targets. Oh, we got a multi-ball? We love a multi-ball. You know what this reminds me of too, a little bit? Theater of Magic, a little bit. Just a little bit. The music, I think. There goes my multi-ball. Oh, no! No, no. Little orbit shot there. Oh, I see the mystery shot. Well, guys, I'm going to keep it there, but I hope you enjoyed the little history about, you know, some of the interesting parts about why pinball started in Chicago, a little bit of, you know, Gottlieb itself, how it was kind of a secretive company at the time when it started, and how in the little segment I watched, how, you know, Roger Sharp became close friends with the Gottlieb family, and so it's, you know, pinball is really a community. So, you know, of course it started out as a business, you know, competing, but then you see how, you know, these companies kind of came together, and like people from Williams ended up working for Stern, and it's just, you know, I think it's a good thing, you know. So hope you enjoyed. Till next time, catch you guys later. Take care.